It's interesting to me that every time we get to the Christmas holiday season, the same exact question comes up over and over again. Should I do Christmas bonus? Should I not? And as we start thinking about the end of the year, we start thinking, well, heck, I haven't even talked to my team about how well they performed this year. So maybe we should start doing those quarterly reviews we've always wanted to do. And if we do a quarterly review, how do we get our employees to not come in with their hands out thinking, I get a raise? Because reviews are always associated with raises. One of the biggest mistakes I see companies make is that they tie the review, the performance review process, to that of getting a raise. And I want to break down some things right now because this is a big problem. And I think it's one of the number one reasons that companies do not like to do performance evaluations, because they do them and then it costs them money. Here's the reality. We have done this to ourselves. You did this to yourself if you tie an annual review or a quarterly review with a raise. And it's one of the reasons that it comes up when we start talking about Christmas bonuses. It's like, well, we just did our annual review. We just gave them a raise. Do we give them another bonus? Now, I'm not going to talk about bonuses right now. I've got other content about that and how to deal with bonuses and why you should give them and how you should message them and when. What I want to talk about right now is the fact that we have tied performance evaluations to raises. And there's three types of raises that I think you can give your people. The first one's a cost of living raise. The reality is that it costs more to live today than it did a year ago or 10 years ago. We should be keeping up with what the economy requires of our people, because if they can't buy eggs or milk or just basic necessities because things are more expensive, we need to give them those raises. Now, those are not merit raises. They are not performance raises. They are strictly a cost of living raise. You look at how much inflation has gone up and you give everybody those raises. And if you can't afford that, it's time to look back and say, well, inflation went up, so maybe our prices need to go up to afford these raises so that our people can continue to live. Now, I don't want to get into political debates about that. Cost of living rate, the cost of living, or the COLA, the cost of living adjustment, is what we're talking about there. That's one reason. The other reason, if you're in a highly competitive industry, you're in the trades, construction, service contractors, or heck, even some of the industries that are really struggling to find high quality people right now. There is a market adjustment that you'll have to give, a market adjustment raise. And here's what I mean by that. If you've got an employee working for you right now, $25 an hour, and every single competitor of yours in your market is paying $30, well, it's really hard for them to say, I'm going to stay put for 25 when everybody else is making 30. Now, I get that's an exaggerated example, but the reality is you have to keep up with the market when it comes to wages, because when that person leaves you at $25 an hour because they want to go make 30, guess what you're going to have to pay to get that person to replace them? You're going to have to pay 30. So why not give it to the person who's been loyal to you, who you've already trained, who's already part of your team? Give them the $30 so that you don't have to worry about replacing them at a market rate. So it's another reason to give raise. Notice neither one of those are tied to performance. Now, if you have low performers on your team, if you have people who are not putting out the numbers that you expect, well, that's a whole different conversation about why you're tolerating low performance. So if you've got a low performer on your team, now's the time to have a conversation with them about their low performance. But if you've got someone who is hitting the numbers, is doing what they're supposed to be doing, keep them on your team and pay them a market wage. What's your competition paying for that same position? Because that's what you will have to pay to replace that person. So those are the two reasons that you give raises that are not tied to performance. Now, there's the third one, and this is where everybody messes it up. They think, well, that person's doing their job. I'm going to give them a raise and I'm going to call it a performance raise, or I'm going to tie it to their performance review. So now all we're doing is we're creating a whole bunch of team members, a whole bunch of employees that are sitting around going, I get my review, I get my money. And they have the expectation that they will get more. Here's how I want you to think about this. There are levels of performers on your team. Sometimes we call them ABC players. Sometimes we call them top performers. There are people that perform better than expected, or that take on responsibilities that are beyond their job description. They do more than what is expected of them. Not because they have their hands out and they're waiting for money. That's just who they are. Maybe they want a promotion. Maybe they want to be in charge of new projects. I don't know what their motivation is for it, but they're the kind of people you can't live without. They're the people that you just wish you could clone. They're that good. And I want you to look at them and say, hey, if your numbers are 5 and you're producing 7 every month, if you have these 3 core responsibilities and you took on this extra thing because there was no one in the company to do it, those are reasons to provide a performance raise or a performance incentive to that employee, which says, hey, I appreciate you going above and beyond. And I know my words only go so far, so let's have that appreciation show up in your paycheck. It does 2 things. Number 1, you put your money where your mouth is, and it really shows your team, hey, we value top performers. We value people willing to take on more. That's the first thing it does. The second thing it does, and this is the real benefit as employers, it prices them out of market wages so that if they ever do get upset, they ever do get frustrated, they look around and they go, I'm making more money here than I would out there. Maybe I should go talk to my boss about some of the issues that I'm having. And it creates an engagement and a retention opportunity for you. But notice, in none of my examples do I say, oh, you hit your numbers, here's more money. So I want you to think about this. The next time you start thinking about quarterly reviews, annual reviews, bonuses, raises, all of that stuff, I want you to think, are we making the decision that's right by the employee, or are we just doing it because it's habit? All right, if you want more information like this, I want you to go to corematters.com, go check us out. We've got a lot of information, a lot of free tools, a lot of assessments, reports, a ton of information that can help you increase engagement, get a higher performing team, and get that profit that you've always wanted from your business.